All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and a happy new year to each and every one of you. There is an awful lot going on today. As we wrap up 2023 and move into 2024, Bitcoin has officially printed a 158% return for the year 2023. We saw a whole heap of craziness occur in the year 2023, including but not limited to the US judge ruling XRP is not a security, 10 trillion asset manager BlackRock officially filing for a spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, the BlackRock CEO saying crypto is digital gold and Bitcoin is an international asset. We had SBF found guilty on all charges, Elon Musk telling advertisers that were trying to blackmail him to GFY. We had Russia come out and say that they were going to use the Chinese yuan instead of US dollars to settle trades with Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Jerome Powell came out and said that crypto appears to have staying power as an asset class. CZ stepped down as Binance CEO. Coinbase relisted XRP. The Chinese yuan overtook the US dollar as the most used currency in China for cross-border transactions for the first time in history. Saudi Arabia entered a trade alliance with China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and 4 other Central Asian nations to step further away from reliance on the dollar. Argentina plans to replace the peso with the US dollar and shut down the central bank. The Turkish crypto exchange CEO was sentenced to over 11,000 years in prison for stealing $2 billion in customer funds. The SEC dropped its lawsuit against Ripple XRP executives. Grayscale won its lawsuit against the SEC. Coinbase sued the SEC, seeking regulatory clarity for the crypto industry. Over in El Salvador, they signed a bill that eliminated all taxes on income, property, and capital gains from technology innovations. Hong Kong court recognized cryptocurrencies as property. Chinese property giant Evergrande filed for bankruptcy. Do Kwon was arrested in Montenegro. US government arrests SafeMoon founders. BlackRock named JP Morgan as an authorized participant in its spot Bitcoin ETF, and the UK government plans to establish a new digital asset legislation to make the country a crypto hub. So what a year. What an insane year. And let me tell you, 2024 is going to be a lot more wild than this. Mark my words on that. Just before we get into the meat and potatoes, just before we get into today's episode, I wanted to issue this as like a public service announcement. I saw so many of these tweets this morning, okay, from all of your favorite LARP accounts. And this, of course, pertains, as you can see, they're just copy and pasting each other. This, of course, pertains to a US 1-month bond yield spike. An awful lot of people calling for Armageddon, an awful lot of people out there remain sensationalists. And of course, the bears love a bit of fear. The bears love a bit of bad news and parroting each other from these LARP accounts like I've showed you. But the facts are the facts, okay? This is a data error. It's a glitch. This is not a real wick, okay? And these accounts just never even bother to check their own charts before they post their nonsense. They just copy and paste because they are ultimately engagement farmers, not traders. So just be careful. Okay, be careful with what you see. Don't get suckered in. We are staring down the face of a massive, massive, massive melt-up rally. We are staring down the face currently of the most aggressive portion of this blow-off top. And if you follow people that like to monger engagement by parroting each other without doing sufficient due diligence first, then you are going to miss out on what is frankly the easiest portion of the rally. In this stage, everyone's a genius, okay? Everyone's an expert. All you have to do is buy stuff. That's all you have to do. Buy it. It's going to go up and it's going to be wild. So just be careful, okay? Don't get suckered in. There was so many people talking about how we had absolutely no chance of heading higher, okay? Absolutely zero chance we held 40K, right? And 100% chance that we had to fill these CME gaps at 39K. Because you know that rule where 100% of gaps fill, despite the fact anyone that's looked at a CME chart can spot multiple gaps on the CME chart that will never fill, okay? 39K may well be one of them. Not saying that's likely, I'm just saying for now at least, be careful with being 100% sure of yourself. Max Payne is still up because the majority of market participants think they know what they're doing. Okay, I'm not trying to pick on this guy. This guy was not alone. There was plenty of people like this, but I'm just saying, have a plan, be open to all outcomes, strong opinions, weakly held. Remember, the only thing you know is that you don't know. And in the meantime, we continue to see the base case primary expectation play out. Inflation is starting to drop heavily now, okay? 2.32%. I like to see this, and that is because the base case, the theory at the moment remains that we are currently swinging from a highly inflationary to a strong deflationary environment. I think we're somewhere in this neighborhood here about to move into deflation, just like China has as of last month. And the reason I say this is because the M2 rate of change, remember, lags manifestation in the CPI by around 18 to 19 months. This little wobble right here corresponds to the wobble we've had of late, and now we appear to be moving down, and that is to be expected because none of this portion of the rate of change of M2 is yet to be priced into the CPI, is yet to show in the CPI data. So it sets us up nicely for a big deflationary move. That is the reason that we should get a massive blow off top moment followed by a deflationary bust. We're going to deal with this thing one day at a time. As always, this remains a base case, remember. But for now, everything seems to be moving in the right direction. We still seem to be seeing inflation come off quicker than most people are ready for. And we are still staring down the face at a pause as of January's meeting, followed by potentially cuts in March. So again, it's going to be important this year not to mess this up. Everyone's going to think they're a genius because things are going to go up in practically a straight line. But we must remember to check ourselves, to check our ego every single day and remind ourselves that we must be open to all outcomes. The big news at the moment, of course, is that BlackRock says that they expect the SEC to take until the end of this week to approve the Bitcoin ETFs. And the halving is simply not priced in. A lot of people think it is, but the halving is clearly not priced in because otherwise Bitcoin's price would not be doing Bitcoin things the way it is, okay? If only there was some kind of yellow squiggle that suggested we could have potentially seen this coming ahead of time. The spot Bitcoin ETF approval is definitely not priced in. Again, we can see this. We can see this. It's not up for debate because any ETF news that's positive triggers more upside in the price action of Bitcoin. Coming Fed sheet balance expansion is also not priced in yet, but I would argue we have to go down first because they don't typically start to print money and prop things up at all-time highs, okay? Typically, they like to blow things up first and use that printing to bail it out and to prop it back up after it's crashed and stolen everyone's money. And by stolen everyone's money, I really just mean handed it from retail to the institutions and the Fed balance sheet. The outright return to QE is certainly not priced in, but again, the data kind of suggests we've got to go deflationary bust first, and then we will see this QE arrive. I don't think they're going to print money and flood the stock market whilst it's at all-time highs. Of course, I am open to being proven wrong about that. But above all, the next wave of adoption is not priced in. Retail's not even here yet, okay? This was really, really obvious if you went out over Christmas and spoke to some normies out in the wild. And by the wild, I mean the pub, right? If you went out over the Christmas and New Year period and you spoke to some normies in the wild, they are sleeping on this move entirely. They still think Bitcoin's dead and never coming back. Again, none of this is priced in. And that's why Bitcoin's price continues to move higher. Again, Max Payne remains higher because the majority of people can't comprehend that we can just continue to go up like this. Most people can't comprehend that that's even an option. And thus, the way you harm the most amount of market participants is to continue to send this thing higher. The big question on my mind is, are we going to get a repeat of gold, right? The green vertical line denotes the first ETF approved for gold. And as you can see, we went on an 8-year up-only bull market for gold thereafter. Is this possible for Bitcoin? I don't know. That's to be determined. If this was, of course, to repeat, then maybe we could be expecting to see a sell-off in Bitcoin, just like what happened here with gold, followed by a reaccumulation before the bull run. That would take us some time to the halving, and then we would see a bull run resumption. Is that on the table? Absolutely. Is that my base case at the moment? No. I'll show you why in just a second. First, I wanted to point out that Fidelity Spot Bitcoin ETF is going to have a 0.39% fee. Now, if you know, you know. Okay, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. GLD, the ETF for gold, is currently charging 0.4% fee. They are sending a message here, and it's not just Fidelity that are sending a message competing with the gold ETF, but Invesco and Galaxy are going to charge 0 fees on Bitcoin ETF for the first 6 months and for the first $5 billion in assets. So we're going to see more and more of this competition come in, not just with the spot ETF providers competing with each other, but also with them competing with gold. Meanwhile, I literally cannot find a single bearish chart out there that has any credibility or validity. The stock to flow continuing to push up towards this vertical portion where we are going to start to expect to see 100k plus Bitcoin. Remember, this is 100k here and this is a million. Okay, so yeah, I'll leave you to ponder and have a good look at this chart here. I am, of course, still open to seeing a 4-year cycle repeat. And if we were to do that, then that would mean we have to have some kind of significant correction here, some kind of months, multi-months, 6+ months of basing before then we start to get onto the true parabolic curve, the true bull market for Bitcoin. And this, of course, is what many, many people like this are calling for and expecting. However, again, I remain in the camp of people that thinks this is the crowded trade. This would be easy. This would be too easy because we can just look left and say we've done it before. Of course, we're just going to keep doing it again, are we? Forever? I don't personally think so. I've made this case over and over again. I am open to being proven wrong, base or pullback, and we will start to accept this as the primary hypothesis. But if we continue to move up, then actually what we're doing is this, okay? Actually what we're doing is moving from this X up to the next base here. Usually when we go from X to base 4, that marks the point in time where the asset doubles in price in the shortest period. Now, there's always a chance that this is base 4 here, and we're breaking out of base 4. Just because this is typical for the schematic does not mean that we actually have to double, but also possible that this is not base 4 and actually we are just grinding up before continuing to move up, and then we will form base 4 higher up. But as it stands, and as I've been saying over and over and over again, okay, all the while we're holding above this daily and weekly cycle, then the cycle is still valid, it's still biased to the upside, and we are still printing higher highs and higher lows. It is impossible for me to become bearish and say that this parabola is invalidated until we at least fail this cycle or break down. As it stands right now, zooming out a bit, we have our first line of attack in red, okay? We are also clearly putting in a second line of attack now, and if we continue to do what parabolas do, we will put in a third line, and that will become the sell signal, and it will look something like this. On a balance of probabilities, this is still the base case. Now, I don't want this to happen. I want this to happen because if we do standard 4-year stuff, it's much easier to deal with. We'll get a much higher top and we'll know exactly where we are at all times because we've seen 3 of these before. But I think that is too easy. I think the way you harm the most amount of participants is to do something like this. And I think this would be max pain. Perhaps we get ETF approval somewhere in this neighborhood, and then the halving occurs somewhere in this neighborhood, and everyone thinks Bitcoin has died permanently. That will be determined by the market, as always, one day at a time. The only thing I know is that I don't know. But for now, this is still the base case because it's not yet been invalidated. And under the hood, there still remains a whole heap of suggestions, such as the LMACD right here, that tell us to keep an open mind about seeing a huge bull run and parabolic expansion for the price of Bitcoin. So as you can see, what a year, right? What a year so far. We love to see it. Things are still moving in line with our base case and our expectations. So we'll continue to push this trade. We'll continue to push all these trades that we've stacked up together. And we continue to expect the Dixie to roll over. We continue to expect to see yields come off. Thinking about breaking out, but we're close to a cycle low needed. So I think perhaps the play would be to wait for that cycle low to show up first. Oil back into resistance, so that's fine. We've got our stop choked up, and if we get taken out at this level here at about 76.5, then it is what it is. So with all that said, welcome to 2024. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Those member stocks all look fantastic, so long and strong continue to push there as per the update over the weekend as well. For everybody else, I hope you're doing well in life. I hope you're ready to smash this year as much as I am. And in the meantime, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.